Father, make us the masters of ourselves, that we may become the servants of others. Take our minds and think with them. Take our lips and speak with them. Take our hearts and set them on fire. Amen. Amen. Please be seated. Good morning. So here we are in the season after the Epiphany. Christmas is over. Football is nearly over. It's winter, and in the South, that means not much is going on. For most people, the only noticeable thing between now and Easter is Valentine's Day, but we're not most people. We're Episcopalians, Christians, steeped in the long history of the faith, reliving the life of Christ each year in a cycle of seasons we call the church year. In worship during this season of after the Epiphany, we focus on Jesus' manifestation as God's light to the world, urging ourselves to live out Christ's light in our lives by reaching out into the world. That's what we're going to do this 6 or 7 weeks. It seems that right now many of us are feeling a bit like our light is dim or is close to dying out. The world is a mess. Our country is a mess. People are a mess. I'm a mess. It's just one big, hot, messy mess out there. We don't like it out there anymore. It feels dark, tense, and fearful. And we may be led to wonder, where is God when we need him? But all that changes when we come through the doors here at Grace. Inside, it's all care and love and good music and meaningful worship and joy. And we all seem to light up with smiles and hugs and hearts that feel full. We trust that God is in our midst here. We want to linger. But there is this nagging call from God that keeps repeating, you are the light of the world. It's dark out there, go shine your light. But we think, it's scary out there in the dark. So Isaiah expresses similar feelings to those we're having now. And I'm paraphrasing this very liberally. Hey, everybody and everything, God chose me before I was born and made me with the traits and talents that I have. God trained me to speak well so that I could bring the Israelites all back together and keep them from this trouble, political strife, and captivity. I've worked myself to the bone with no results. No one listens to me, and no one cares. It's been a total waste of my life. I'm not sure God has even been paying attention. And now, God has the nerve to say to me, it is too light a thing for you to be bringing the Israelites back to God. Too light a thing? He says that's too easy a job for me. That there's something more important for me to do. God tells me I'm to go to all nations, to be a light and bring them all to God. Well, if I can't get this one scraggly nation to turn back to God, how can I be a light to all the nations? But, God says that all the difficulty and frustration will pay off in the end. So I'll do my best to do God's will. Too light a thing. Too light a thing. That phrase lingers in my mind. Too light a thing. Viktor Frankl, the famous neurologist and psychiatrist, survived being in concentration camps during the Holocaust. In the concentration camps, he discovered that there were people who faced real threat and danger, yet possessed a deep hope. He named this phenomenon tragic optimism and defined it as a recognition of pain, horror, and death, making the choice to still say yes to life in spite of all of that. In today's psychology, there are articles about the paradox of effort, the dilemma that people face based upon our basic mental construction. Humans prefer efficiency and ease, so they naturally lean toward tasks and efforts that offer the path of least resistance. The pleasing results release the chemical dopamine, which lifts our spirits. It keeps our light going. We need some of this ease to be able to rest and renew ourselves. But constantly taking this path of ease also leads to a false sense of achievement and capability. Excuse me. I need a little help here. The other side of this paradox is that we're also made for difficult work and situations. We're made to do hard things. Olympic and professional athletes, musicians, performers, scientists, and others are prime examples of this in their drive to practice, study, and prepare for their work. This difficult, lengthy, and often lonely preparation, though, builds skills and resilience, so when it is time to perform, they make very difficult things look easy. The interesting thing is that, like the easy path, their preparation and performance also produce the chemical dopamine, giving that uplift of spirit. However, constantly following this path can lead to anxiety, loneliness, and separation from others. It's a dilemma, a paradox. We're made for a balance of both ease and hard work. So what does this have to do with faith, with too light a theme, Viktor Frankl, and this hot mess of a world we're in right now? How are we, people who claim to follow Jesus, called to act and respond to what we see as oppression, dominance, and lack of respect for others? How do we go about acting justly, loving mercy, and walking humbly with our God? Are we always on the path of least resistance, or do we find ourselves locked in the difficult path of learning, honing skills, building resilience, and working ourselves to exhaustion for what we're called to do? And what might balancing these two paths look like for shining our light in the world? The path of least resistance, the easy way, in a negative frame, could lead to simply reacting emotionally to our world with fear, anger, anxiety, or lashing out with the exact same treatment that the oppressors use, tit for tat. Emotions are wonderful for helping us know something about ourselves, but those feelings are not usually reliable as decision makers for our words and actions. Responding rather than reacting requires an awareness of our emotions balanced with self-restraint and use of logic and analytical thinking. I think that this might be why Jesus so often reminds the disciples to fear not. Calm down. Take time to pray. Think before you act. Take a moment to remember that you are to shine your light with kindness and compassion. The difficult path might lead to spending all our time practicing the how of worship without experiencing life outside the church and religion. We can't shine our light out in the bigger world when we're only inside the church. It just doesn't work that way. But instead, we might choose to carefully study life situations and the history of the people of faith so we may speak the truth with love in ways that others can hear it. This is different, very different than being reactive, such as speaking in demeaning ways with disrespect or demanding words. This is not a heated debate, an argument, nor an attempt to prove that we're right. This is a compassionate conversation, dialogue, listening and speaking. Practicing nonviolent resistance to oppression and domination is another disciplined action. Shiphrah and Puah, the midwives of Egypt at the time of the birth of Moses, the Magi who defied Herod by refusing to return to Jerusalem but took another route home, and Jesus, who refused to call up defenses but faced injustice, torture, and death without resistance. Those are examples of nonviolent resistance to oppression. These actions require courage, self-discipline, and creative thinking. Offering radical hospitality provides an opportunity and space for change to occur, possibly change in others, but truly change in ourselves. For Jesus, radical, fearless hospitality put him in the midst of people who thought differently than he thought, provided space for deep conversations, and expanded views of the nature of God and the world. Studying our scriptures in community can build our skills and knowledge of faith. Learning to listen carefully to others without mentally preparing our response can open our minds and hearts for learning. These are skills of self-discipline that help grow our faith. Being in community in these ways fuels our light, which will then shine brightly wherever we may find ourselves. As Viktor Frankl is quoted as saying, "For the world is in a bad state, but everything will become still worse unless each of us does our best." Well, for starters, I think that each one of you in here has done one difficult thing already today. You have come to Grace to worship. That's no small thing. You had to get up, you had to get dressed, you had to, this is one day you could sleep in, blah, blah, blah. It did take some effort. You could have just stayed at home in front of your TV eating Cheez-Its right out of the box. And you also gather in church book clubs, work in the outreach ministries, and all those other things that we do here, building and grounds, serve on the vestry. These are all difficult things that lead to an ease of the work we do. In these ways, you are fueling your light to take it into the world in your everyday lives. That light shines brightly, and when you see and recognize evil and harmful realities of the world around us, you'll be able to shine bright enough to expose them. Your life will be a living example to others to have the trust and hope in God's love to say yes, yes, yes to life. Amen.